All right, the first game of the Pracky Match series that we got to see was out at the Hangar, the Bombers' home ground, and that was Essendon up against the Western Bulldogs. And our man on the ground there was Twomey. Cow, how are you, mate?
Hello, Warnie. I'm good, and it was a good start to the season anyway, for the Bombers on Thursday. Come over the top of the Dogs late, and there were some good performers for both teams.
Well, I guess the thing is, I was looking at your report and watched the game myself, and maybe slow to start, but Jordan Ridley was fantastic in his intercepting defender role. I reckon he would have nearly had double-figure marks.
Yeah, he would have had about 30, I think, but so he was able to really chop things off, and I think that's where the benefit of Jake Kelly arriving at Essendon will be huge for Jordan Ridley, because with a full defence, it allows Ridley to do what he does best, and that's, as you say, intercept mark, read the ball well in the air. We saw his big hanger in the third quarter, and he uses the ball so well as well, either the kick out or just around the ground. He's really trusted as a source out of defence. So that's where, from a fantasy point of view, I mean, he could really jump into that sort of premium territory this year. And I'm backing him to be an All-Australian this year. I think that's his career trajectory, and he still hasn't played his 50th game. So he is an absolute star, I think, and someone who should be catching the eye of fantasy coaches.
Yeah, definitely. He's got that 80 average next to his name last year. I think that he can push that 90 plus now. Speaking of the big scorers, now these are the midfielders, and Darcy Parish, I was a little bit worried about what his numbers might look like this year. Basically, they tailed off a little bit at the end of the season with Shield coming back in, but he's almost their number one man in there. Yeah,
he is, and he's looking really, really comfortable as well. I think he's reached a point in his career now after the last year where he's just so confident in what he's doing and knows how to find the footy, and knows that if you have a couple of minutes of quiet time, you can come back and have a big influence after that as well. So he's in a really balanced position in his career. And yeah, we're talking about his 7th year now, which is, he's probably only entering about his 50th game playing full midfield time by the start of the season. But, what a season he did have last year once he finally got given that full-time rights. And they would have had about 30-odd touches, plenty of clearances, and dominated around the ground. So, look, he got tagged a little bit at stages at the end of last year. There'll still be some teams that try that, but not many teams actually deploy hard tags these days anyway. And if that does happen, then the focus will turn to Zach Merritt. Parish will spend some time forward as well, like he has done in previous years. He had a good summer in the intra-clubs, kicking some goals there, and has always shown an ability to do that. He did again on Thursday. So, yeah, there's a lot to like about what his ascension could look like this year.
Well, we do have some sneak peek of the stats from the game that'll be out on afl.com.au later this week. And he did have 109 points, which was the top scorer for the Bombers, and he did that in 3 quarters. So pretty nice performance there. And Dylan Shield I mentioned, so he had a pretty down year last year. Didn't obviously play a heap of games, but he could be a bit of value for draft leagues because he's got such a low average sitting next to his name. Do you see him is he fit and is he looking good?
Well, he's fit. He's had a good summer, good pre-season until that little quad nick a couple of weeks ago. Came back on Thursday. Look, I don't think it was his best game. He's still trying to work out, I think, what his position is in that midfield group. He's been such a clearance player over the best times in his career, but the Bombers don't need him to be that explosive clearance player anymore quite as much, given we talk about Parish and Merritt, and also Stringer when he gets in there and plays his midfield minutes too. So they're trying to work out the best way to do that with him. Given his price, that probably makes him an option for fantasy coaches. He still knocks up fine in the footy, there's no doubt about that. But it will be interesting, I think, to see over the early part of the year what role exactly he takes on, because he will be rotating through that forward group as well. And the Essendon coaching department look at it as if the midfielders are just part of the half-back, half-forward transition and movement there. So they do see them all in the same group and as one sort of area of the ground. So it'll be interesting to see how much time he spends inside the square versus outside.
Yeah, well, the Bombers midfield is interesting because I think I get laughed at when I talk about the depth of it, but you'd agree with me that we're a pretty deep midfield there. And McGrath's sort of been pushed out, but he played as that sort of half-back, and that looks like what his role will be this year. And the way I sort of saw it is that he's almost like he was at times like an inside midfielder, but on that half-back and was just getting plenty of the pill.
Yeah, he was good. I thought he was really good. And I've been pushing for him to go to half-back if the midfield is all fit, because I think that's where he has played his most damaging footy so far in his career. We haven't seen it as much in the midfield, I don't think, just yet. But Given the full list at the moment, full complement of players, except generally Stringer in terms of fitness are in the midfield group, then yeah, I think halfback will see a bit of him there. He also did spend some time in the midfield against the Bulldogs and was pretty solid. But I do like his run and carry there. And again, trusted player with the footy in his hand. So the deputy vice captain and carries a bit of leadership too around that part of the ground. So that all counts for something. I know leadership doesn't count for fantasy points, but sometimes you can end up with the ball in your hand because you're a leader as well. So I think there's something to be said for him across half-back.
Just quickly there, Jai Caldwell, he probably pretty much played a half-forward flank, didn't have as much influence in the guts at all. I thought he might have had a few more centre bounces, but that's what his role might be at the moment?
He's spending some time across half-forward. The week before, he was full-time mid, essentially in that first half in the intra-club game where he had 14 touches and a few clearances and kicked a goal as well. So I think there's, again, the mix and match of it all. What's the best three players in alongside Draper at the ruck contest in the middle versus around the ground and how that fits. But he's more of a forward mid rotation, whereas we talk about Merritt and McGrath, they're probably more the back midfield rotation. So that's probably where it sits at the moment for Jai. But he'll be aiming to get into that starting four group there.
Great to see Tex Wanganeen got a spot on the list as well as Nick Martin. Great finish there to the last quarter that he had. So he was looking all right. He'll come in the game as a 190k forward. But Hobbs, he got a chance in the midfield, and I think he just about attended almost all the centre bounces there.
Yeah, he was great in the last quarter. He had 6 or 7 touches. That was really good. He was pretty influential. He had fresh legs, of course, versus the other boys who'd played 3 quarters, but didn't look out of place at all. Caught up with the tempo of the game, was probably even at stages going faster than the game has been played in that last term. I think he's that eager to get amongst it. But yeah, there's no doubt that when he plays senior footy, sooner rather than later, he'll be finding the footy pretty quickly as well. Another player though that will have to spend some time and do a bit of a apprenticeship across the half forward line and be able to play at that part of the ground, I think, to make sure that he's versatile enough to step in. However, he might go past a couple of other midfielders really quickly if he plays like that too. So, yeah, he's ready-made, he's ready to play, and there's a little bit of good impatience about Ben Hobbs. I think that'll be wanting to see him pretty soon at the start of the season. So I'll be looking at him really closely as a fantasy option for sure.
Now, talking about stacked midfields, I could talk about the Bombers' stacked midfield all day, but the Bulldogs obviously have plenty of guys that run through the middle, but I think they've got a pretty settled rotation. Obviously, you've got the Libbers always going to be in there. Dunkley, McRae's always there, Bont, and also Treloar. So those guys were basically the main guys through the midfield. Bont played pretty much half a game. I think he was purely an on-baller in the first quarter, and then he moved forward. How did you see him, and was that just him ticking over the legs?
Yeah, he was just ticking over the legs. Caleb Daniel as well sat out the second half, and sort of no coincidence that the Dogs clearly weren't quite as imposing without those two players at different parts of the ground in the second half. But I think Bond's ready for another big year. Obviously smarting after last year's grand final defeat, their best player in it, and still one of the best handful of players in the competition. There's no stopping him. Jack McRae the same, still as hungry as ever for the footy. The midfield, I think that was probably from the Dogs' perspective was Treloar. I thought in his first half he definitely run and carry pretty well, and we know the injury interruptions he's had over the past few years. I think if they can get a full year out of him, that'd be a really exciting side. Of course, Bailey Smith didn't play, so he'll be fighting for that sort of forward mid role as well within the side once it's fully selected and at full strength. But yeah, I think Treloar was the one that of the midfield group definitely was one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. We're very lucky. We're blessed with having Dunkley and Treloar with forward status after the time they spent forward last year, and they, to me, look like they're just ready to go on easy picks because they probably both, because of their injuries, didn't have as good seasons as what we would expect this year.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, Dunkley, how good was he in the first 6 weeks last year? Yeah. When and for the Dogs and for fantasy coaches, he's kicking goals, taking marks. That is a good part of his game too, from a fantasy perspective. He can take plenty of grabs around the ground, so that is a big part of what he does. But last year, we know that shoulder injury, he didn't get going once he got back and was probably a little bit lower in terms of their pecking order in the midfield. But that's where he wants to play. It's where he's been eyeing off at different stages of his career. Hopefully, after a good pre-season, he can get back in there.
Beautiful. Thanks, Cal, so much. Now, you've been doing almost what all of us fantasy coaches have been doing at the moment, getting ready for our draft season where we're ranking our players. You've just ranked the top 50 players. How are you feeling about that after dropping that last week?
Well, it's been hit with some strong feedback. Everyone's very. I feel like an all-Australian selector now. I know what they feel like, where everyone wants to say who should be in, but no one really wants to say who should be out. But it was good fun exercise. I'm not sure. What do you think?
Yeah, I loved it. I reckon it was great. And, I'll probably steal some of your ideas for my fantasy drafts coming up as well, because you are the man with all the knowledge when it comes to all the players across the league. Thanks so much, Cow. You've been a legend here. Thanks for the insight into the Bombers and Bulldogs game. And, happy pre-season watching.
Chat to you soon, Warnie.